Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome to the second day of Signal Forum. I hope you had a good night rest, and thank you for cutting your breakfast short because of us. So we have the early birds here, I guess. I'm very much looking forward to today. We have again 2 blocks. In the morning we have Deep Travelers, in the afternoon we have Into the Universe, and we have again a stellar combination of speakers. So I hope you will have a great time with us. And without further ado, I invite Bartosz Frąckowiak to guide us through the first theme of today, which is Deep Travelers. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. So yeah, again, it's a pleasure to have this introduction to the theme, to the block. We are going to have some deep travels today with our speakers. So travel has often been a narrative of conquest, like of land, space, oceans, and now increasingly of also time and data. So it was conceived as a discovery in order to exploit and extract in all the colonial narratives. But when we think of travel, we often imagine crossing spaces like oceans, skies, or perhaps even venturing into space. Yet today, in this forum dedicated to deep travelers, we are not mostly concerned with the cliché of movement toward the distant horizon. This theme invites us to address different kinds of challenges. This is not the call to cross geographical borders or break through physical barriers, not first and foremost. Instead, we turn our gaze inward and downward and between the spaces that escape the eye, to the microcosmic, exploring the fabric of our planet through the metaphorical and literal lens of travel into the earth itself, visiting the depths beneath our feet, the materials that constitute our world, as well as interconnected systems and their timescapes. This term timescape was popularized by sociologist Barbara Adam in her book Timescapes of Modernity. Rather than viewing time as a simple linear progression, the timescape suggests that time is multidimensional and experienced in different ways depending on context, scale, and perspective. Just as landscapes have various elements like hills, rivers, forests, mountains, timescapes consist of different layers and scales of time. For instance, human life operates on a biological time scale, whereas environmental processes such as formation of geological structures or the evolution of ecosystems usually unfold over millennia. Of course, it has been changing with climate change, so this timescape is also in transformation. These multiple temporal dimensions overlap and interact. In a timescape, time is not seen as a steady uniform flow, but as shaped by rhythms and patterns, such as the daily cycle of work and rest, the seasonal changes of nature, or the long-term cycles of innovation. This concept also highlights that time is experienced relationally. Our perception of time is influenced by our interactions with people, objects, environments, ecosystems, and technologies. So my first question is, what are timescapes of a soil, of materials, and also of different interconnected systems? Our imagination has long been captivated by the idea of traveling into the earth, most famously in, of course, in Journey to the Center of the Earth by Verne. You know, Verne's tale is not just a story about a subterranean voyage, but about confronting the unknown, crossing boundaries that are both physical and imaginative, and encountering deep time, like layers of history embedded in the planet. So the deep traveler, and we consider ourselves as deep travelers today, is not one who simply moves downward, but one who reads the world. I think it's very important. Reads, sonifies, translates the world, deciphering signs, interpreting layers, and tracing meanings that escape the casual observer. So such a shift in perspective allows us to recalibrate our futures-oriented imagination to open up to the unexpected, the surprising, the puzzling, the non-obvious. This kind of journey also tunes our sensibilities, makes us abandon routine cognitive patterns, naturalize habits, so that we can keep learning to look anew, adjusting our gaze to different dimensions, scales, and timescapes. So, what can the earth, soil, material systems tell us if we listen carefully? We begin with Sasha Spachal, whose work challenges us to listen to the subdued and hidden audiosphere of the soil. The soil is not mere earth of substrate. It is a living network of interactions, a vibrant ecosystem composed of countless microbial and fungal relationships. So Sasha will guide us through the layers of the underworld, where symbiotic relationships between organisms emerge, exist, and evolve. But her exploration is not just about biology. It is about care. So what does it mean to nurture these ecosystems in a world that often neglects the microscopic, the hidden, the invisible processes happening on small scales? When we change scale and take a journey into the soil, materials, or systems, the way we experience time also changes. For instance, soil holds the memory of species past and the potential of future life. It pushes us to reconsider the human relationship with the earth, not as conquerors, but as participants in a grander symbiotic process. Our second speaker, Sital Solanki, is a materials translator, a concept that may sound unusual and surprising at first. Materials, much like people, have stories and languages. We'll try to hear some of them today. They traverse time and space, being shaped by geological processes, human hands, and the passage of history. The materials we touch are entangled with histories far beyond our immediate perception. They are entangled with political contexts, cultural and social contexts, and of course with power dimensions. Sital uncovers material identities, considers their life cycles, and also thinks about new applications of those materials. Materials migrate, much like people. We can think about materials migrations, like we think about people's migrations and, commodity migrations, for instance. They move across continents and are shaped by cultures. So Sital asks, how can we learn to speak the language of materials? How can we trace their origins, their transformations, and their touch points across time? But finally, how we can learn to engage with it more responsibly and sustainably and thoughtfully. So Sital shows us that deep travel is not just a metaphor, but a practice, one that bridges science, design, and cultural storytelling. Shouldn't we start talking about future scenarios with exactly what the future is made of? Materials? We could imagine like building scenarios of the future, starting with materials and what it could, the fabric of the world we are going to build. And our final speaker, Georgina Voss, shifts our attention to the systems that shape and organize the world we live in. Her book, Systems Ultra, Making Sense of Technology in a Complex World, but you can buy a book on Verso. It's really interesting, and I can recommend the book. Examines the invisible but omnipresent systems that govern everything, from global trade to air traffic control, from architectural design to car crashing testing. Georgina explores how these systems shape our experience of time, space, and matter, revealing their inherent fragility, breakages, deviances, and these vulnerable points where the systems also disrupt and fail. It's a different kind of deep journey into the concept of time itself. And her speech will focus on what she calls the ship in a bottle episode, a phenomenon in film and television where the narrative becomes contained in a specific enclosed space, freezing time for that story, even as the outside world continues on. So as we bring these threads together, we realize that deep travel is about exploring the multiple scales at which life, matter, and time operate. So let's discover these different timescapes today.